a group of us put our heads together last night to try and pick the threads and themes out of yesterday. We didn't try and summarise each group one by one. The groups did that themselves. You can read that online. We've taken the themes and the threads out of it, and so I want to feed that back to you. This is what it looks like to us. And then you'll have an opportunity to say, we think you missed this and this and this. So we're not pretending, you know, that this is perfect or the final word or anything. Like, this whole thing is a work in progress. We just need to keep that in our mind, and we can build on it all the time. So we've had a go at it, but if we've missed things, you just need to say. So this is on the inclusion principle. What we've missed and you say, we'll put in. And we'll just keep doing. We're going to do that for 3 years. Now, I keep saying 3 rather than 4, although it's a 4-year project, because if we do it for 4 years, then Feral Arts are going to spend the 5th year unfunded trying to write it up and, you know, finish it and acquit it and whatnot. So I keep saying to them, you're talking to people for 3 years, you've got to have a year of pulling that all together. So for the next 3 years, we're all going to be talking to each other and building this project. And it's a work in progress, and we need to say that to ourselves and to everybody else. So don't worry when something's missing, or don't worry when something's there that you don't like. That's part of the conversation, and things will change over time. So that's really important. How are we going? Can I start? Okay, fabulous. So welcome to the people who are online and to everybody who's here. Let's be joyful that we're lucky to be meeting on Aboriginal land, all of us. And one of the fantastic things about these few days is how much closer we've come to relating to the land that we actually meet on and live on and work on, which is fantastic. So I wanted to start. I did want to say to the people who are online that we apologise that we've not been able to stick to the timetable that you've been given, and the things that you might feel that you've missed out on. We'll learn as we go how to do it better. In the meantime, we're going to make sure that all of the things that have been said that you might have missed are up online so that you can read them, and that you can feel as if you're part of it. But I just wanted you to know that we recognise that we've not kept to the timetable that we set. So Alex says thanks for updating. Great. So, okay, so I want to start with the question about, you know, what is Arts Front and where's it going and how's everybody going to be in it and whatnot. And I'm going to use kind of simple language really about it, which is much more sophisticated and complicated than the language I use, but we need to see it in bold terms for a start. It's a funded project. I mean, people, including the people who got the funding for it, hope that it grows into something else. And that, that somehow between us during this project it's worked out how to give it a long-term life. But it's not funded as a movement, it's not funded like in its bald sense, it's funded as a project. And we, not Feral Arts, we in the sector, across the sector, have to work out how to make that something that's got a longer life, you know, and that grows into something where people are really powerful and part of it. So it's a funded project to do 3 things. To build a vision for the arts. Now, that came about because everyone put a huge amount of energy into writing a policy in the last Labor government, you know, into putting energy into what should the policy be and what should the words be and blah, blah. Bugger me, a minute later they're out of office and the policy's gone. Everyone put a huge amount of energy into developing the strategic plan for the Australia Council, getting the words, blah, 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 blah. Bugger me, a minute later, the thing's gone. you know, Brandis has changed his money. He endorses it, and then he takes all the money out, and the thing's changed. So it's been, ferals have been trying to think about how can people put their energy into developing something that's got a life longer than a government or longer than a minister. So what would be, so that's where vision came from. Let's stop talking about policy. Let's talk about what is a vision. And let's see if we can write a vision that encompasses the arts sector, that's got huge support from the community, where we've got the philanthropics who fund us, who say, yes, that's great, blah, 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 and where we can get cross-party support. So it's for vision. In 2030, the arts in Australia, we want it to be like this. Now, every government will have its own policies about which bits of that it's going to support and which bits of that it's going to put money into and which bits of the vision are its priority. And that will change from government to government. But if we start with something where they've all agreed, yes, we agree, that's where we want to be in 2030. So that's why it's vision. It's to try and elevate it above the political process and get that sort of support, cross-party support, but also is our, you know, our other funders, the corporates and the philanthropics and all of those people saying, yes, we are. And to try and get the community to say, yes, we agree, that is where we want the arts to be in Australia. So that's that bit of it. That was the first thing, to get a shared vision. And not just with ourselves, but with other people as well. Secondly, to get joint projects, to improve the collaboration and the projects. Now, I call them projects. Norm calls them campaigns because in Ferrell's view of the world, you get something done when you're having a campaign. It doesn't mean political campaign, it means action. So it's about joint campaigns, which are action where you have outcomes, rather than the softer word, which I'm more generally used because I'm an ex-bureaucrat, which is project. So projects are campaigns, right? Campaign doesn't have to mean militant political. It means something that you're going to do and get done and get an outcome, right? So the second thing that they were funded to do was to get people to do joint campaigns. And thirdly, there's been a struggle over the last few years about how to bring the arts sector together. And, you know, in the beginning of the crisis, when Senator Brandis just pulled the money out of the Australia Council, it was hard to get everybody together. You know, people had differing interests and, you know, there were different tensions amongst people. And in fact, I mean, it's true across everything when I think about it. When the community arts and cultural development money disappeared from the Australia Council, it was hard to get everybody, okay, everybody, you know, like, need to pay attention. And when the money's just gone recently from peak organisations and advocacy, like how do people get together and have a voice? Now, it's a tricky thing because everybody wants there to be a way for there to be a unanimous voice on the things that we agree about, but nobody wants somebody else to speak for them. And that's our challenge, like to work that out. So, for example, at one of the forums during the Senate hearings last year, I think Rachel Mazza said, I want there to be an organisation that we can go to and say, we want broad support in the media, blah, 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 about this topic. But I don't want that organisation to speak for us. They can't. And when I thought about it, I thought that everybody feels the same way. I mean, the major performing arts organisations feel like that. They want to be part of something, but they don't want anyone else speaking for them. And so I guess that's true. But so that's the challenge that we're thinking about. So we've got to think about how are we going to operate together and get that sense of there being a network of people in the arts who particularly the people who are committed to change and forward, future forward. And how do we do that? And then be able to be powerful together without people overstepping the mark and working and talking for other people, since everybody will pull out then you won't have a network. So those are the three things. Get a vision, work out what joint projects and campaigns are together, and try and work out how to network and build the sense of an arts community all across the country. So that's what Arts Front is now, funded to do that. So those of you who know feral arts, or if you don't, you do now, know that the way they work is about giving other people a voice. The basis of their practice is empowering other people to speak, empowering other people to tell their stories, etc. They never make decisions about content. They spend their lives giving people a way into the conversation, which is what Place Stories and all of those things that they've done have been about, and that's what this project's about. So they run this project in a really open way. They set up working groups and say anybody who wants to be on the steering group can be on it. So the steering group for this project has got all the people who volunteered. They don't select who can have a voice. They invite people to join and be part of a process. So that's how Arts Front runs. Now, Arts Front's not been funded to run all the projects you want to do. It's only been funded to do those things, to get you together so that you can run campaigns and projects and, to bring people together to create a vision. And they might do that in Western Australia or, they might do it in other places, in smaller places. But really, we've to think how we're going to pick up the challenges that are coming out of here and what we're going to do. So in a way, that's what today is. So when we think about, well, who's making the decisions about Arts Front? We're making the decisions. This is a participant-driven process. What ferals do is make it possible for us to be together having the conversation. So we as the participants decide what happens next and where it goes. Some things will come out of here. They'll all be on the website. Then people who aren't here are going to have a view and they're going to put that in there. No doubt, let me use AMPAG, Major Performing Arts again. They will have a look at it and have a view, and they're going to insert their view into what's there, which is what we need, because part of this project is trying to bring everybody together and have a sense of an arts community across the country. So ferals are facilitating a process of bringing people together, having their views. What's special about this event is the opportunity to shape the conversation because you're the beginning of it. What you come up with today will start to shape where the conversation goes and how other people get their voices in. So is this making any sense? So we don't have to worry about, how it's governed or who's making the decision. The people who are doing things are making the decisions. So, for example, you'll find in a minute when I get to it, there's a group that we've got today that's going to look at what are the protocols we think ought to be present in joint campaigns and joint statements and, the things that we do jointly as the arts community. So if we can have, for example, and we won't finish that job today, but that group will start that. But if we develop a set of protocols which are about the things that you've been talking about cultural inclusiveness, about First Peoples First, about recognising and celebrating diversity, all of those things, then we'll be saying to people, if you want to be part of these Arts Front joint projects, campaigns and whatnot, you need to accept and adopt these protocols. So Lenine, well, you talk about it, the climate change mob.